Welcome, everybody. You're listening to the Yak Legion Podcast. And tonight I have Brennan Mcdougal and Christian Highfield, two young men in the kayak fishing industry. Tonight we're going to be talking about getting the youth involved in fishing. And I have two youths right here. Two of these guys, they're both under 21, not even old enough to drink, but they're sticks out on the lake, man. So we'll start with you, Brennan. How's it going tonight, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good. Just working all day. Got a sick kid, Hadn't been out on the water for a good while. I'm itching to get back out there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been expo season here lately, so I've been going to all the fishing expos and kind of having fun with that. And it kind of beats the cabin fever a little bit, man.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been a while since I talked to you. I talked to you last season. I can't remember exactly what episode of the Yak Legion it was.
It was like August, I think.
Yeah, around August I talked to you. And, man, you've been kicking butt over there in Indiana. So what have you been up to since our last conversation?
Man, just fishing, as usual. I think when we last talked, I told you how I demoed the Topwater 120 PDL. And I ended up upgrading to that mid-season.
Wow.
Which is, that really changed. It seemed to change my game a little bit in terms of fishing and efficiency. And I managed to do, I'd say my second half of the season, I had a really great, second half, qualified for the national championship, re-qualified for 2 state championships, finished well in points. I just had a great season, and I also managed to take over the high school club at my high school and run some stuff with that too. And a lot of stuff's happened really for me. I've really had a good year.
You have a high school kayak fishing team.
It's more of just a boat and kayak team. So it's a mixture between the two. It offers youth, so all high school, middle school, and elementary kids. And
wow, man, you're the perfect young man for tonight's conversation, and that's awesome. How you been, Christian? What you been into, man? You been working hard? Hardly working.
I've been started back up school here a week or two ago, so I've been back at school. I've been working other than that, so it's just been tough to get out in this weather that we've had. All my weekends, I mean, we've just had rain pretty much every weekend, so it's been either rain or really cold weather on weekends, so it's just been really tough to get out lately. But I'm just like you, itching to get back out and be able to go fishing again.
Oh, yeah, you going to the Columbus Fishing Expo or anything like that?
Yes, I'll be at the Columbus Fishing Expo next weekend on Saturday.
So I know you're going to do some vlogging for your channel, OPH Outdoors. How's that going, man? I heard you just hit 400 subscribers, man. Good job on that.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, that's going pretty good. I've started this winter, since you can't really get out or anything, I've started doing a bunch of videos over just like pretty much helpful stuff for other anglers. It's kind of how it goes with this episode today, specifically helping other anglers get into the sport and learn more about the sport. So I love helping other people out with like little tips or tricks that I know about certain applications of fishing, or like tackle organization, or with fish finders or anything like that. So once a week I come out with videos like that. Like last week I came out with the best soft plastic, best and cheapest actually soft plastic storage for boats and kayaks. So it's really what I'm working on this winter, just helping some people out, getting ready for the upcoming season.
Oh, great, man. Brennan, do you have a social media presence?
I do.
I know you're on Facebook. Do you have Instagram? What are your tags and stuff?
It's McDougal Fishing is my Instagram, and my Facebook, I think it's just Brennan Mcdougal. But my main, account for tournament recaps and all that is McDougal Fishing on Instagram. So I just do, I recap most of my tournaments, just talk about how I did and, what I did wrong or whatever, and just also post and have a good day on the water or something like that.
Gotcha. What are your plans for 2020?
I want to start, I fished some bigger tournaments this year, but I want to I'm obviously fishing the national championship, but I want to fish some other opens, almost not nationally, but just some bigger tournaments this year. I have some goals set. I want to qualify for the All-American, which is, I think, new to kayak fishing. I'm not sure if you heard about that, the All-American.
No, I hadn't, yeah.
But it's in November, so I want to qualify for that. And I have some other big goals for this year. But just continue fishing, and I just want to continue learning new things, getting better.
What elite series events? Are you fishing any elite series events this year? Like the Hobie Bass Open, Bass Masters, KBF stuff?
I'm fishing the KBF National Championship, fishing that on Gunnersville in April and late March.
You're one of the 800.
One of the 800, yep. Which that was my biggest goal, which I'm glad I qualified for that. But I'm fishing a couple of the HBOs, I think, St. Clair, and I want to fish the KBF East and West Harbors. Ended up something happened last year. I was going to go to that one last year, and I think I got sick the week before. That was going to pre-fish. I didn't get to go to that. So there's some of the elite level events I'm going to fish this year.
Oh, nice! I'll be at East West Harbor for sure.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular event. I want to go up there. It's only probably a 5-hour drive from my place, and
that's not bad.
I'm almost 100% gonna go to that one because I really wanted to go last year, and I just didn't get to make it.
Oh man! Well, I look forward to seeing you out there, man. I'll definitely look for you. I usually camp out there. I got a tent. It's a 3-room tent, man. It's like a little cabin, and I'm 6'1", and my head doesn't touch the ceiling in this tent. And you can walk around freely. I got one of them queen mattresses, inflatable mattresses I put in there. We're on 4 foot off the ground, man. I sleep like a king, and it's got a port for an air conditioner. And so I'll actually take a plastic crate. I'll stick one of my plastic crates down, stick an air conditioner on it, and then hook it up to the side of my tent. And it's nice and cool. And I have to have a nice sleep when I'm doing a tournament, man. I know how to camp. I'm a professional camper.
Oh, yeah. I camped. It was the second tournament of the year this year. It was on Summit Lake in Indiana. I'm not sure if you heard of that. Summit Lake.
Yeah, I've heard of Summit.
And as a campground out there, and I ended up camping. It was my first time camping, and I slept awful. I mean, I was not prepared for it at all. I slept really bad. It was one of the smaller tents, though. It wasn't like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting experience. But it was also in April, and it got really, really cold at night, so I froze.
That could get nasty camping in April and early May. But then usually May around Memorial Day, it's awful nice. That's usually when the official camping weather, the official time to start camping for the summer. Do you do many camping trips, Christian?
I haven't so far, but I've really wanted to. I've just never have somebody committed enough to going out and fishing that is good to go out and go. And before this upcoming year, when I got my pro angler, I haven't had anything to be able to. Well, like if I decide to go out on a lake and bring stuff with me, or on a river and bring stuff with me and just go and camp somewhere, I haven't had anywhere to put stuff. I've got a big 10-man tent. So, I mean, now I can throw it in the back of my kayak and go wherever I want and go camp on a lake or something. So I want to this year.
State trail events we camp for, like a lot of our in-person events, especially for the Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail and like the Cincinnati Trail. We'll all camp at a lot of those lakes. That's a lot of fun, man. Especially the Raccoon Creek event is one I'm looking forward to this year because it's 2 days. And Raccoon Creek last year was so much fun. We had a blast. I mean, we were up till 2 o'clock in the morning hanging out, and then getting up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and getting out on the water by dawn. And it was something else, man. It was a lot of fun. But so what are your plans for 2020? What do you have in store for this year?
So originally what I was thinking is I was going to try to find I was going to join like Team Bass Extreme in a boat tournament and then do some kayak tournaments. But I've ended up deciding that since I've never really fished any like boat tournaments, I figure I'm going to do a cheap tournament that I can kind of pick and choose, like a cheap trail, so I can pick and choose what bass tournaments I want to fish in my boat. And then there's a lot less events that way, so then I'll be able to go and fish a bunch of the Buckeye Kayak Fishing Trail and then maybe a few of the Cincinnati Kayak Fishing Trails tournaments too. So I'm really wanting to split it even, like maybe one weekend do a tournament in my boat, the next weekend do it in my kayak. So I'd really want to just work both ways and just get a big variety of different types of fishing in this summer and spring.
Oh, yeah, man. Be careful not to stretch yourself too thin, especially when you're doing a YouTube channel and you're covering both worlds of the fishing. You got the kayak scene and you have the bass boat scene. And a lot of it's the same, man. It's all just fishing. But some of the crowds are a little different. So I'm excited to see what happens with your channel, man. Definitely.
Thank you. And then also one other thing is how I talked to you about possibly going down to the Kentucky Lake event for the Hobie BOS.
That'll be fun, man.
So if my schedule aligns with that, where I'm out of school, and if I have an open weekend, then hey, then I'll go down there with you and fish the Hobie BOS at Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, man, I'm always down for have people come along, man. I even got enough room. Me and John Graves, he had one room in my tent, and I had the other room in my tent, and we had a third room for storage. And down there at Gunnersville, man. So, and you have a nice setup. It sounds like you have a 10-man tent, man. We'd be good to go, man. We could bring the whole family down, aunts, cousins, neighbors, brothers, sisters. But so let's talk about the main topic tonight, man. Youth, getting the youth involved in fishing. And that's something I've been pondering on quite a while. I know, Brennan, you're part of a high school team. I know there's a few high school teams. Mainly they get out there on somebody's bass boats, and they go out there and fish a little while and, maybe fish a couple tournaments here and there. And that's awesome. I really like that, man. I would like to see more kayaking coming into the youth. I know my buddy John Graves, he was working with, I think, Madeira School about getting a kayaking league going for their youth over there.
Yep.
And they were going to take money out of the tennis program, stick it into the kayak program. That's what I'm talking about. But this whole generation now, though, it's kind of hard to get through to them because seems like video games is the big thing. And don't get me wrong, I like playing games. I'm a millennial. I'm kind of like I'm right on the brink of being a millennial because I remember what life was like without technology, and I remember what it was like, before computers, before cell phones, before social media. So I kind of understand this new generation of kids. And you have like the Twitch streamers and the YouTubers that make millions of dollars, more than I make in a year. These people make in a day playing a video game and talking about it and joking. Like guys like PewDiePie and some of these other, you all laughing at that. I mean, man, he makes a lot of money, and all he does is play video games and run his mouth. You know what I mean? And man, they're rich, and it's a way bigger industry than fishing. Sad to say, it is. I don't know. Maybe not a bigger industry than fishing, but man, it's pretty damn close because video games are so huge anymore. So how do you get these kids that are glued to their devices, glued to their TVs and their couches, out there on the water, out there fishing? What do you think, Brennan? Let's start with you because you're on your high school fishing team, man. What can we do to get these kids off these video games out there and with a tackle box on the lake?
I mean, my view on it is a lot of kids that really don't fish, they think it's just like sitting there still with the bobber.
Yeah.
Not doing really anything, just not being active at all. And I'd like to get the point across that there's a lot more into it. I think it's important to maybe get them out once and have them actually really catching some fish. Mm-hmm. I think if they catch fish and they realize that it's not just sitting here and waiting, actually catching them and having fun. I think that really would get them hooked on it. And just like I said, having a good day on the water, because some people go out there and they don't have a good day and they just see it as a boring sport. But if you have a good day, it's fun. And there is bad days in fishing. It's just how it is with anything. You have bad days, but I think it'd be good to get the kids out and have like a good angler take them out and get them on some fish. I think they really get hooked on it. Realize that being outdoors is a good time and it's just a good sport that not a lot of people realize how much goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous how much, tackle or rods, reels, line selections, and just even figuring out what the fish are doing. There's so much that goes into finding the fish
It's challenging. And then, I play this game. It's fishing video game during the nasty parts of the winter. It's called Fishing Sim World or Fishing Simulator. Yep. And you can kayak fish in that thing, man. And I kind of had that idea, like, man, what if these kids, they're playing these video games and like, man, this could be really fun going out on a kayak and fishing or going out on a boat and catching bass. I know my gateway drug when I was a kid was bluegill.
Yep.
And I think that's, starting kids off young, fishing for bluegill, because bluegill are easy to catch. And you can catch a bunch of them. And you could take your kids as young as 5 or 6 years old, take them out to a dock somewhere and just sling it over towards the lily pads and be catching bluegills. And it's action packed. It's not like bass fishing where, you're casting for hours sometimes and you're not catching anything. And that's very important, especially with this new generation, I think, that has such a short attention spans.
Yep.
That they're not going to have the patience to go out there and blaze the banks or use their electronics, and they're not going to put the hours into finding a big fish if they're not having fun with it. And I think crappie and panfish are great, for getting people into fishing. So maybe more youth leagues are revolved around panfish.
Yeah.
That's the gateway drug, panfish. What do you think, Christian?
So I'm kind of, I agree with what Brennan said about, I just completely lost what I was about to say for some reason.
Oh, brain farts, man. I do it all the time, man.
Yeah, I think, too, that a lot of these kids, that they just get bored with it real easily, and that really the only way to get them into it is by keeping them active, keeping them catching fish. And I agree with you. I mean, a great way to get started is pan fishing. Catching bluegill, crappie, anything like that, because, I mean, pretty much every lake in Ohio has those. And every lake in Ohio, you can catch plenty of them. Probably any lake, probably in the U.S. has those, or at least some type of panfish or some type of forage or something like that you can catch a ton of. So that's a great way to get them into the fish or into fishing, is just put them on those type of fish, get them catching fish and get them enjoying it before you get into another type of fishing. Like personally, I didn't really fish much until I was probably 11 or 12. And I mean, my dad's never fished. My mom, she would bring us fishing every once in a while. But one of my buddies is the one that got me into it. And I think that's also one of the best ways to spread it and get more people into it, is just by getting your friends, bring them out, go fishing, get them to catch fish and have a good time. And then they'll get addicted to it. So like he got me addicted to it that way. And then later on, one of my other buddies that I fish with right now, I fish with him all the time, and he got me into like hardcore bass fishing. And then now I'm here because of that. He helped me catch more fish. And so now I'm catching a bunch of fish. I'm out fishing him a lot of the time now too. And that now I can take other people on, like say my dad for say, where he's never fished, and I had him catch his first bass 3 years ago, I think, or first fish like 3 years ago.
Wow.
And he's always said it's boring, and then so my way of getting him to at least somewhat enjoy it is I'll bring him out to one of my local farm ponds where you can go and catch a fish on every cast with a Ned rig. And I'll give him a Ned rig, and that's it. And I'm like, go cast this out and just jig it a little bit, and I'm like, you'll catch fish. And he does that, and he enjoys it. He can sit out there for 2 to 3 hours doing that. But if he's not catching any fish, he's not enjoying it, and he's not doing it.
Didn't he go out and fish Cowan with us at one time last year?
That was my friend's dad.
Okay.
Yeah, I fished with him a lot too. That's Todd Horton. He has a bass tracker and he fishes, and I sold him my old Ascend FS12T that I had, so he can get into kayak fishing a little bit. And he took my Hobie Outback out there that day. But
I mean, I back to the panfish thing. I agree with it because I think a lot of us bass guys really started out with panfish. Like that's how I learned how to do it. When my dad used to take me out to my uncle's. He had like a farm pond almost, and we just slayed them like all day long. And that's what you guys were saying. Like it'll get them to realize like catching fish is fun, and then when they get older, start doing the bass stuff or whatever. I mean, there's so many different types of fish that people like to fish for. I think a lot of us learned off of panfish, so it's
definitely. And I also back to what Zach said earlier about how you said the whole gaming community, how it's like really huge and people watch them on Twitch and YouTube and all that. Actually, right now, I think one of the best ways to get kids into fishing and getting them enjoying fishing is through the YouTube scene. I know a lot of people dog on them, but a lot of the time I've seen a lot of young kids go and start watching like the Guggen Squad type guys.
Yeah.
And they'll watch them and they'll enjoy. They'll really like what they're producing, what they're putting out. I mean, like them or hate them. I mean, I know people that like them. Some people can't stand the Guggens, but there's a lot of kids that are watching videos like that, and then they're expanding into other type of YouTube channels, starting to watch that, and it's just getting them to start thinking about fishing and getting put into fishing. So I think right now probably YouTube's a big thing that can help get kids into fishing too.
I like that you mentioned the Guggen Squad, and sorry for interrupting you there, but we're going to go a commercial break real quick. But I like that you mentioned the Guggen Squad because I wanted to bring them up tonight and kind of get both of you guys' opinions on those dudes. So to hear the rest of the podcast, you just wait, listen to my special ads I got placed between, and we'll be right back. And here is a word from our sponsors, Venom Lures in Lancaster, Ohio. They're known for their great soft plastics and terminal tackle. They've been providing quality products from right here in Ohio since 1984. Mr. Dustin Carnes is the new owner and inventor of the DK rig. It's a weedless version of the Ned rig that's taken the fishing world by storm. You can check them out at venomlures.com. Our next one is Strictly Sail. It's located on Kenwood Road in Blue Ash, Ohio. They sell Hobie, New Canoe, Feel Freeze, Three Waters, Johnny Boats, and they've been providing high-quality service to fishermen and watercraft enthusiasts since 1978. Reach out to Brian Tacey at 513-984-1907, or you can check them out at strictlysailinc.com. We have American Tackle, baby, the inventors of the microwave line guide system. Great company, run by a great guy, Austin Todd. Definitely check them out. Their fishing rods are far superior. And then lastly, Real Fishing Company. They help make the logo of the Yak Legion. Great company. Check them out at realfishingco.com. All right, we are back with Christian and Brennan. So we mentioned before we went to the break the Guggen Squad. Love them or hate them. I think they're doing, I don't know. I think they're doing my personal opinion before I ask you guys your opinion. I think it's a good thing because there's a lot of older guys, a lot of serious kayak anglers that don't like them because they don't wear they don't wear a life jacket. You know, they curse a little bit. You know, a lot of people they're religious, they don't really care for that. But they're getting the younger generation into fishing. How do you feel about that, Christian?
You know, for me, it really depends on which one of them you're talking about. There's some of them that like I don't care for and that I don't watch their videos, and there's some that I really watch and that I really like. Like two that I really think are really like they're just so let's see how I want to put this. They're so I don't know, but they're both of them. They just post often really good fishing videos that make fishing look enjoyable. They make I think they make a lot of kids start getting interested in fishing and wanting to fishing, and that's going to be John B. and Lake Fork Guy. John B. just because he has some really good videos, he has some really cool edits in it, and he still catches fish in his videos. And he probably has one of the best video editors for YouTube in the U.S. right now for fishing content, I would say. And, I mean, that's why I think people really like his channel and really get addicted to fishing because of seeing all these edits and all of this content he puts on. Then, like with Lake Fork Guy, he came from competitive high school fishing. He came from competitive college fishing. He knows so much about bass fishing. He puts out good content, and he puts out a lot of knowledge into fishing, so he teaches you while you're enjoying what you're watching. So I think that's what those two really have a big impact on getting more people into enjoying fishing or even thinking about getting into fishing just because of some of the content they put out. Now, there's others that don't put out as good content or like as serious content on fishing, and I think that's what makes a lot of people not like them. I mean, there's a few of them which are like that. I know quite a bit of them though are like the John B. and Lake Fork Guy. that really put a good content out for young anglers to watch.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I watched a lot of Lake Fork guy videos. To be honest, I hadn't seen a lot of the Guggen Squad videos. I've seen a few, and I kind of get the gist of what they're about. I I think it's interesting. I think anything we can do to get these kids into fishing. And I kind of looked into Twitch, right? I downloaded it onto my phone. You know, being a podcaster, I'm like, how can I expand myself? How can I expand the media that I cover? And I looked at other fishing channels on Twitch, and they really don't do very well over there on Twitch.
Yeah.
It's mainly video games and politics for some reason, and a lot of left-sided politics, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I kind of keep politics out of my podcast anyway. I don't want to go down that route. You know, I don't want to say who I support or anything.
Yeah.
But it's video games, and there's cursing, you know, and these kids are telling jokes, and they're joking around, and they're playing these games, and that's all Twitch is. So I decided not to go down that route. Maybe in the future there might be more of a presence of Twitch. Maybe I should get on there and start my own presence on Twitch. But I'm not entirely sure how well a fishing channel will go over there, because it's really not the type of content that those people that are into Twitch that are really into. What do you think about the whole subject of the Guggen Squad, Brennan?
I mean, there's a few things to it that I see. One with like their baits. I think it changed with the youth a little bit about them releasing their baits. It's like where I work, we got the Guggen, or it's like the Ketchco combination, and we have like the Guggen soft plastics. I see a lot of the younger, you know, middle schoolers and just youth like me and stuff. They come in and get, and I haven't really used any of their stuff, but there's a lot of kids that immediately will come in and they'll see the Guggen stuff and they'll immediately start looking at it, or they'll buy it just because they know. I mean, I'm assuming they watch their videos and stuff. They're just doing something different that not any other fishing YouTubers have done, really. Like in terms of like you were saying, the edits and stuff, like John B and stuff, his edits, and I think AP Basson's good because he's more like funnier, I guess, almost out of all of them. And I think it's good to have like the Guggen Squad. They have a different variety of anglers. Like Lunkers is more like serious, I guess, and then like John B's with the edits, and AP's like, I guess, funnier. Some people. So I think they're definitely changing it a little bit for kids, and I think it's a good thing. With the baits too, like I said, I haven't used their stuff. It looks good, and I think it is bringing a lot of youth into it, making it a little bit more fun for like newer anglers, you know, and for them to be able to, like I was saying about like different like YouTubers, like they're just doing it different than most other fishing YouTubers out there, just with the edits and stuff like that. So I think it's really attracting the youth, and just they do some stuff with the youth too. Like I know they're sponsoring some high school teams and stuff like that. So I think it's a good thing. I support it. I mean, like you were saying, like or hate them, I think they're definitely doing a good thing for the youth.
Yeah, YouTube is a start, and YouTube is the key to reaching these kids, I think. And social media, because kids love social media. They love YouTube even more. Kids don't watch TV anymore. They don't watch the Outdoor Channel. Maybe their dad in the front room, he's out there, he's watching the Outdoor Channel. He's watching Zona's awesome fishing show. And they're in their bedroom on their laptop or their tablet anymore, and they're watching YouTube videos. And I think YouTube channels like your YouTube channel, Christian, and you know, Brandon's done stuff on YouTube. Yak Legion is on YouTube. I'm really going to be focusing on my YouTube channel this coming year, and really trying to reach out to everybody. And it's kind of hard for me to reach out to kids because I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 35 years old. I've got a daughter, and you know, I have a lot of ideas on how to get her into fishing and how to get little kids into fishing. But right now, these generations, like these kids like your age, Brennan, that are from 15 to 25, you know, they're all big YouTubers. YouTube is the way to go, man. So you guys have any other comments about that, or?
Yeah, like I'd just like say something quick. Like I agree with you. Like I mean, YouTube is a big thing nowadays, and like I'm 16 and I do watch YouTube a lot, like with fishing and stuff. I think it's a good way to learn stuff, like too, like because like Tactical Bassin,
I was about to mention that.
They are, in my opinion, they have some of the best informational videos and stuff, like, and the Googan Squad too, but just every kid watches YouTube. Like, basically every single kid, at least at the school I go to, everybody's on YouTube. Everyone has access to it now for the most part. So I do think it's a good thing. Because you can learn things like with kayak fishing too, like Greg Blanchard. I'm not sure if you like. I think he's one of the better kayak filmers out there, because he kind of explains like each bait he's throwing, and you get to learn a lot of new things about the sport of kayak fishing. So I think it's a big deal. I really do.
I agree with that. I was actually about to mention something about tactical bassing. Is I know, like, a lot of kids also, I've noticed a lot of people, they're kind of either intimidated by some of these guys that are out here fishing, or they're just intimidated by the idea of fishing. And that, I think one of the best ways to not be intimidated is in the winter and stuff, if you can't get out and fish, like he said, go watch Tactical Bassin'. Tactical Bassin' has some of the best informational videos, and you can learn so much about it, whether you're a beginner angler or an expert angler. I mean, I'm sure there's even expert anglers, like pro fishermen, that can watch Tactical Bassin' and learn something from them, because those guys are just so amazing anglers, and they just know how to teach information about fishing really well. So, I mean, stuff like that. I agree about Greg Blanchard, that he makes some really good kayak fishing videos. There's like Headwaters Kayaks, which makes really good informational videos about certain kayaks. And that stuff can help get kids into kayak fishing too.
100%. I wanted to get some stories from both of you guys. I like to hear stories from everybody on my podcast. But one thing I wanted to mention before we kind of ended the subject of the youth and fishing is something I've learned in my experience taking my nieces, my nephews, and my daughter out fishing. And basically, when you're taking kids out fishing, like I said before, bluegill and crappie are number one, especially bluegill. You can take them to the neighborhood pond. You can take them to the family farm pond, the lake. And you can take you some wax worms under a slip float and throw it out there. You don't even need a slip float, just your everyday. The ODNR gives out these little bobbers for kids and stuff. Those are perfectly fine. And getting them out, getting them into catching some bluegill, get into a big mess of bluegill, and don't fish for too long. Don't take them in the middle of the day. Take them early in the morning and then quit before it gets hot, or take them in the evening after it's cooled down. And only stay an hour or two, maybe not even an hour, maybe an hour or so. If you guys are catching a lot of fish, it might keep their attention. But if you're not, then they're kind of going to get bored, and they're going to end up hating it. Now, I want to kind of share a family story of mine, and it's about my cousin. I'll keep his name out of it. He's had a lot of issues with his dad growing up. His dad was an avid outdoorsman his whole life. And he couldn't manage his time between his outdoor adventures and his outdoor hobbies with his family. And so what would happen is he would be fishing and hunting 24/7. He was never around really for the kids, for Josh. I said his name, but he was never really around for him. And but when he did want to spend time with his family, he dragged his family all over the place to fish. And he would be out there for hours and hours and hours bass fishing, with my cousin out there on a hot boat, and my cousin's a little kid then, and it was just hard for him, and it turned him off. And to this day, he hates fishing. Like, he hates hunting and fishing because his dad forced him into it. And they've done all kinds of awesome trips that I would always love to do. They've went up to Canada, and they've flown to these remote lakes in Canada and fished out there for pike and walleye and all kinds of stuff. And they've been to Florida, and they fished, all these major lakes down there. But he had his son out on the boat for too long, and it burned him out on it before he even grew up. And now he's an adult, and he hates fishing. His mom takes his sons out fishing because he don't like to go out there and do it himself, because he just hates fishing. And that's definitely something that you don't want to do, is you burn your kids out on fishing and taking them out there on the boat and having them out there all day long. And maybe tournaments, they're not a good idea for kids when they're young. Now, I think as older, when they become teenagers and you get into tournament fishing, that might be something that'll spark their interest in fishing, because some kids are competitive. They like the competitive side. And I hate to say by the way, but you know what I'm saying? Don't burn your kids out on fishing. Take them out there, get them on some bluegill, get them on some crappie, and just have fun with it. And don't make it too hard for them. So my next part of the podcast, I want to get into some fishing stories, man. I love stories. I love telling stories and hearing stories, especially around the campfire when we're all sitting around. We've been kayaking all day, or we're getting ready for a tournament the day before. We're just kind of sitting around the fire and drinking some brews, maybe some chocolate milks, and we're telling stories. Do you have any stories that come to mind there, Brennan? I'll start with you.
I mean, honestly, the only story I told you earlier in the year, and that's really it in terms of interesting. I told you about how I got caught in that really bad storm earlier.
Okay. Well, what's an interesting story from this past year?
This past year, I mean, honestly, I don't have really many stories. I mean,
you are still a young man. You're not at that age yet to where you've acquired many stories through bad choices, through years of bad choices and craziness. So you don't have any, a whole lot of good stories yet. I understand that, man.
Not funny, I guess. But
what's your fondest memory of fishing as a kid?
This season, or just
no, in your childhood?
I remember the first time I went out. I think I can. I didn't catch that many, and then when I really started to catch a lot, I realized how fun it was, and I just think that's what it was just good because I used to go out with my dad's stuff, and those are some of the better memories. Go out there and we were pan fishing and stuff, so I got to have some fun, and I learned how to fish, and then I got into it. So, was
your dad a serious fisherman?
Not serious. He doesn't do tournaments, but he fished. I mean, he'll fish quite a bit. Just with me, and stuff.
So what sparked your interest in doing tournaments and the getting into kayak fishing?
And the story with that, well, we have the club that's local, because it was started for me, and I took it over this last year. But I think that I ended up meeting the old president before it got passed on to me, and he kind of showed me the tournament stuff. And I'd say I'm a competitive person, I guess, and I like to fish, but the tournaments really got me into it, and that's what sparked it for me. And then I ended up just trying out one of my buddy's fishing kayaks that he had, and I just really liked it because I wasn't just fishing. I got to just be really close to the water, and even if I wasn't catching anything, you're still out there kayaking and stuff, having fun. So that's kind of what sparked it for me.
Gotcha. Well, you guys want to hear Brennan Mcdougal's story. He is on episode 14 of the Yak Legion Podcast, Season 1. I think I get into what kayak you're in or some of your past experiences and stuff like that. So check that episode out. It's a real good episode. This guy has got a good head on his shoulder.
Before kind of get this wrapped up, I guess, I just want to say if your school doesn't have a club and you're a high school student, I really recommend, if you like fishing, trying to start one up. And getting kids into it. It's a really good thing. It's a lot of fun. My club, personally, we do local tournaments for the kids that don't have access to a boat or kayak, and just try to get it going, get a couple buddies, do a vice president, a president, just try to get one going for your school, because that's what the future of the sport is. The high school anglers and the middle school anglers.
Yep.
I really recommend it if your school doesn't have a club. It's a really fun time, and you get to meet a lot of new friends through it too, to fish with. And
oh yeah, 100%, man. And even older people, the ODNR has a lot of programs, education programs that'll teach you how to teach children how to fish. And when you're going out there and you got kids fishing, you're going to be tying 100 times, you're going to be baiting 100 times, you're going to be untying knots and trying to figure out these horrible bird nests and rat nests that these kids come up with when they're fishing. And it's a lot of patience. It involves a lot of patience, but I think more people should get involved in taking their kids out fishing. So what about you, Christian? Do you have any more stories for us? I know you recently got a drone, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep, I did. But story-wise, though, I mean, I've got one. It's especially about getting a kid to enjoy fishing. that I think it would fit this really well.
Go
Or like this episode really well. So it was either, I think 2 years ago, I was out with my buddy at Kaiser Lake, and we were out there fishing. We were fishing from the point by the marina, I think, and we were casting along like the edge of the weeds where it met to the open water. We were casting lipless, like crankbaits out there, reeling in. We were catching fish like every other cast. We were killing them that day. And I remember there was a little like 7-year-old boy right behind me, and he had like a little Zebco 33 type reel. He was just casting whatever bait his mom put on his lure or on his rod before she walked away and went back to the campsite for a few. And he would just cast, and he had no luck at all. You could really tell that the kid was getting really down and that he wasn't enjoying it at all. So after a while, I ended up just turning around. I'm like, hey, buddy. I'm like, are you catching any? He's like, no. He's like, I haven't. He's like, I'm kind of like, he was just all upset about it. I'm like, all right. I'm like, how about this? Like, so I cut off the bait I was using. I tied it on for him. I'm like, here, I'm like, come right here and just start casting right here. So he started casting right there, and he caught a few fish. And after a few fish came, his mom came and was like, hey, he's like, you ready to go back to the campsite? And he was like, yeah. He's like, Mom. He was like telling her about how he caught all this fish and acting all excited. And before he left, I'm like, hey, I'm like since he didn't have any baits, like many baits at all, I'm like, you have any, like, you want any of these extras that I have in here? So I opened up my crankbait tackle box and some of the old ones that I never used anymore. I've got a compartment for those. And I just let him pick out a few that he wanted to use just so maybe he could have a better chance of catching fish out there and maybe start enjoying it better. So I think that probably fit the, actually that story fit the topic of this podcast really well.
Yeah, great. So, that's a great story, man. You know, helping a little kid out, a little strange kid. I mean, that's a great way to really fuel their passion, especially if he's having a bad day. Yeah. And I know I got my little cousin Jesse into fishing, and he got so excited after the first couple times he went fishing with me, and I took him out. I had a little John boat. It's a 10-foot John boat. It wasn't very big, and I'd take him out on some of our local lakes with him. We just had a trolling motor. We'd troll around, just catch crappie. And he saved his money. He mowed lawns. He shoveled snow. And I think one year he did some part-time work at a dairy bar, and he saved up money and he got a nice 12-foot flat bottom John boat, and with a nice trailer. You know, he had a couple trolling motors with it, and we started taking it out to Tycoon Lake. I don't know if you guys have ever fished that. Mm-hmm. It's above Jackson County. It's above Jackson Lake, about 45 minutes. And it's actually, if you look on the list of top 10 bass lakes in Ohio, like it's on there because it's very managed. There's a slot limit there. I can't remember what the slot limit. I think it's 18, 22 inches. Bass is the only ones you can keep, and I think you can only keep 3 bass out of that lake. So that lake is very highly regulated there, and it grows big bass, man. Mm-hmm. But it's overfished too, and it gets fished. It gets hit a lot because it's on that list of top 10 lakes in Ohio. So it can be challenging in the summertime. The best time that I found the fish there was in the spring. But, man, he really enjoyed it, and he really got into it. So I think we're going to wrap it up tonight, though. Let's talk about sponsors, pro staffs, and shout-outs, man. Brennan, you got any?
I just want to give a shout-out to Honey Creek Tackle. I work there, but they've helped me out so much for I don't know how many years now, 2 years, especially this year. Mr. Twister, I've done a little bit of work with them, too. So they're providing my opinion, some of the better soft plastics. And other than that, like I said, Honey Creek Tackle, I really, really want to thank them for everything they've done for me and what they're doing for the youth. They do a lot of high school stuff, so they sponsor a lot of high school teams. And my parents and stuff for, giving me, because I don't have my license yet, I get it this summer, but, getting me to all the tournaments I need to, for driving me to Alabama this spring that they're going to do. It's just going to be a them too, because that's a lot of driving, it's a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely Honey Creek Tackle. Really want to thank them for everything they've done.
That's awesome, man. What about you, Christian?
I've got 2 real quick. One of them I'm working with right now with one of my friends. He's got a jig and pretty much just a jig company out of Columbus. It's called Hacksaw Jigs. I believe it's Hacksaw. I just started work with him like last week or 2 weeks ago, but he'll be out at the Columbus Fishing Expo. So if you guys are out there, make sure to check out Hacksaw Jigs. He does handmade jigs for you and seem to be really good quality jigs. I'm going to be using them some this year, and I'm working something out with him this year for possible pro staff. And then also too, Ashmore Marine Products. This guy, he does custom dash panels for like boats. He does custom stuff for kayaks too if you want anything done. And he makes great products, and he's hooked me up with some gear for this upcoming tournament season. So yeah, if you guys need any other custom either boat panels or any boat accessories or kayak accessories, then get with AMP or Ashmore Marine Products on Facebook, and he can hook you up with anything. I know he told me he's done some kayak stuff in the past, so he's not opposed to doing any custom kayak accessories. So.
Wow.
I do want to thank you too for having us on.
Yep. Thank you for having us on here this week, Zach.
Yeah, it's always fun talking to you and talking to everybody. I like your hat, Christian. Where'd you have that made at? He's got an OPH Outdoors out.
Yep, there's that's my logo that I had, or that I created back in high school in video productions class. So I made that, and I've got right beside where my mom owns a hair salon, and right beside them they've got a place called Red Ball Screen Printing. And I went over there one day. I'm like, I need an outdoorsy type hat for my YouTube channel. Like, here's my logo, just like a black or gray hat. I need it to look like antique or rustic type and look outdoorsy. I'm like, if you could create something like that, I'd really appreciate it. And a few weeks later, came back. They brought it over to my mom's shop right next door. They're like, hey, here's Christian's hat. So, yep. So I have these hats made. If I get a big enough base or follower base, and I may come out with some apparel with them if anybody ever wants them. So
I know Yak Legion, we have some apparel. I've had some apparel made, like my hat. I'm using Vistaprint currently, and I'm kind of unsatisfied with the hat because it doesn't quite fit my head right, and I want it to keep popping off my head. But their T-shirts I had made, I do enjoy them. They're not like, they're not ironed on. They're actually embroidered into the shirt. Yeah. And you can wash it and not have to worry about that fading or going away. But yeah, I was just curious about your hat, man, or who you used. So man, I appreciate both you guys coming on. Good luck to you, Brennan, out there on the water this year, and you too, Christian.
Thank you.
I hope to meet you up there at East and West Harbor, shake your hand, maybe meet your dad. And I'm sure Oh yeah, definitely, man. See you out there on the water. I might be following you around, trying to find your secret spot, seeing what you're throwing. I take binoculars out with me so I can look out on the water. I see what everybody's got rigged up on their poles.
You guys aren't that far from me, so maybe we could work something out sometime.
Yeah,
and Brookville Lake's super close.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half for me, so maybe we could hook up sometime.
I'd definitely be down to meet up there. It's a really good small
Tasty's Trail, the Cincinnati Kayak Fishing Trail, they have a tournament at Brookville, man. You ought to join that. We ought to meet up there for Brookville.
I'll be there.
Hey, I may do that. I'll have to see what day it is. I was actually looking at that tournament.
I think it's in April.
That'd be fun.
Can't remember. I'll be there.
I'm thinking it is in April, man.
May
yeah,
31st.
I'll see you out there, man.
May 31st. I can't do it. I'm going to be on vacation.
Oh, where are you going for vacation?
Hilton Head Island. I'm going to do a fishing trip down there.
Nice. I've been to Hilton Head a couple times, man. It's,
I have to.
Nasty, muddy water, but man, it's nice down there.
Yep, we go down there at least once a year. I love it there. Great fishing too.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Have a good evening. Thanks everybody for listening to the Yak Legion Podcast.